For Global Ethics Day 2018, Carnegie Council staff and affiliates discuss ethics in action.
The major ethical challenges for U.S. foreign policy moving forward is how can the U.S. use its power in a manner which will achieve ethical and moral outcomes both for its own citizens but also for the global community as a whole, but to do so in a way that is sustainable. Because the challenge that we've had in the past is we've never had a shortage of very expansive goals that we'd like to achieve, but then when we fall short of achieving them, we often see, as we've seen in Iraq or Libya or Afghanistan, that we can end up doing a lot more unintended harm than good. An ethical foreign policy should be one that lays out realistic objectives that can be achieved. So if we say we want to achieve global democracy, but then are supporting authoritarian governments because we need them for security or economic reasons, we've fallen short. It may be better to set a foreign policy, an ethical foreign policy objective that in fact is achievable. That, for example, instead of we want global democracy, which we have not been able to achieve, we'd like to achieve a world in which tyranny is reduced, in which people have governments have greater respect for rights. I think we need to begin to scale back some of our rhetorical ambition and bring it into line with what we can achieve. And I actually think that that is a more ethical approach, morality of results, rather than proclaiming the morality of your intentions. We can see ethics being used in how American foreign policy is conceptualized very much at the tactical level. The willingness of the United States government and of the United States taxpayer to support humanitarian relief around the world, not because we expect that we're going to gain a benefit, but because we think it's the right thing to do in a case of a disaster, a famine, to go out and to provide relief because those are our fellow human beings. That altruistic part of U.S. foreign policy has always been there. Where we have run into trouble is where we have tried to have very broad goals that we source to our ethical commitments, but then are unwilling to resource them adequately. There we can see, but even there we can see we've had some successes. We look at greater strides towards democracy, having people be treated fairly regardless of their religious or philosophical backgrounds. We see the advance of democracy, even with the recession of the last several years. More people today are living in conditions of freedom and prosperity than in previous years, and some of that is due to U.S. foreign policy creating the conditions for a safer, more globalized world. When it comes to foreign policy, we want to have practitioners of that policy be guided by a moral compass. We don't want people who are amoral. It may be, as Morgenthau and others have argued, that the ethics of the statesman or the statesperson will not always mirror that of the ethics that we hold in our individual lives. But we always want to have a sense that policy is being guided by a sense of rightness, of rectitude, that the policies that are being undertaken and the methods that are being used to execute those policies do have as a lodestone an ethical component of making the world a better place, of achieving good outcomes for the citizenry and for the world as a whole. We don't want people to be operating without any sort of North Star of right and wrong in how they're doing policy. And if this happens, what we've found is that an ethically based foreign policy is generally a foreign policy that will be more successful and will have long-lasting results.